Welcome back, everybody. My name is Kaylee, and this is Elevate, where we are lifting your faith and strengthening your lives one week at a time. This is week 4 of our New Testament series, and we are diving into the context of the book of John so that we can see what God was doing back then and what he wants to do now. So, without further ado, let's jump into the video. Now, the book of John is really different from our last 3 Gospels for a few reasons. The first reason is that it's written way later. We assume it's written somewhere around 90 AD, while the others were written way earlier, around 50 to 60 AD. Now, this is because there is a lot of heresy and apostasy happening in the church. Those are just fancy words to say that people were not sharing the truth of the gospel, but were sharing a broken or false version of it. And apostasy just means that people were starting to leave the church, both because of heresy, but also because the church was facing really bad persecution. Another reason that this gospel is different from the other ones is because it dives more into Jesus' teachings rather than his parables. And because it shows us the full 3-year span of Jesus' ministry and his trips back and forth to Jerusalem. John gives us a lot more detail in this gospel regarding the little things. The smells, the sounds, where they were, how things were made. It gives us more of a nostalgic air. He's somebody who's later on in his life and he's looking back on a time that he really, really loved and really appreciated, and he wants to be shared correctly and not changed or lied about, as was starting to happen at the time. Lastly, where Matthew was writing to the Jewish people and Mark and Luke were writing to more Gentile people, this book is clearly written to both. There have even been questions as to whether it was written originally in Aramaic or in Greek. And we're not sure because it seems like it could have been either. And this is showing us that by the time that John is writing this gospel, there's a mixed and well-integrated church. And the problems in the church aren't who's joining anymore, but keeping them there with the truth. So, as I mentioned earlier, there was heresy. And a massive problem in the church at the time was something called religious syncretism. And this means that people were taking bits from different religions and mixing them together and causing a lot of problems. And one of these problems that came out of it was something called Gnosticism. And the Gnostic people believed that Jesus had either been an angel who came down to earth and was kind of like a hologram or a ghost, an illusion. He wasn't really there. He wasn't really a human. Or Jesus was a human who was possessed by an angel. He wasn't really the Son of God. And we know this to be false. That's not real. That's not true. So John's gospel comes completely against this. It shows us both Jesus' divinity and his humanity and the perfection of both of those. He shows us both Jesus' feelings and emotions and the things that he did and the smells and the sounds and the feelings and the reality of it, while also showing us Jesus' perfect divinity through his miracles. Now, John does something really cool in these books, and I'm going to refer to it as the sevens. But basically, what he does is he shows us Jesus through these 7 I am statements and these 7 miracles. Now, 7 is really important because in the Bible, 7 is a number that means perfection. So, showing us the 7 miracles is showing us the perfection of Jesus' divine power, and showing us these 7 I am statements is showing us the perfection of Jesus' humanity. He is something. He is someone. In every sense, Jesus spends this book battling the broken perceptions of him and showing that he is perfectly who he is. John doesn't show us through who Jesus is through parables, but through tangible and practical. One of the statements Jesus made about himself is that he is the restoration. John restores for us the image of Jesus by showing us that he is perfect restoration. Thanks for watching, guys. Our faith is something that needs to be nurtured and grown, so let the word come alive for you this week. Don't just talk the talk, let's walk the walk and continue to elevate our faith. I'll see you next week. Bye!